How's Sunday morning?
The last time you went, woo, for Sunday morning.
Yeah, it's Sunday morning's difficult, especially after the concert on Saturday nights.
Right.
Yes. This is why this is morning. It's actually 12:30. Yeah, no. All right. So hey, I'm Forrest Rain. I'm a Brony musician, and I'm also a part of Elements of Harmony, along with my co-host here,
Snowblitz.
And we're both part of VOH, and we're just heading up the VA Tips and Tricks panel here, and yeah. So we'll start things off right away here, just by introducing. We can go down the line.
Sure, you want to say, I'm Terry Klassen, I'm the voice director.
I'm James Corlett, father of Claire. It's the only reason I'm here. Oh, and I am a featured guest in the most popular episode ever made, Leap of Faith. And I played Silver Shill.
My name is Claire Corlett, and I'm the voice of Sweetie Belle. And I am the daughter of this man sitting next to me right there. Hi, my name is Kazumi Evans. I am the singing voice of Rarity and Luna.
Hello, my name is Peter New. I'm the father of Ian James Corlett. And it's the only reason I'm here. Kazumi wants me to say that I'm her boyfriend, so I guess we're announcing that relationship. So have fun with that, everybody. I also happen to play Big Macintosh.
Yeah, perfect. So we have a very diverse array of people here today for this, and there's a lot of dynamics that we can discuss with this. But I think first off, we'll start with the directing aspect of things with Terry here.
Oh, good.
Well, you really are next to us, so you're the first one.
It's easy to talk to. You know what, I'm going to start at the beginning, and we'll use My Little Pony as an example of how a series works. The actors. I don't deal with the singers because Kazumi, she won't even talk to me. No, I'm kidding. How it begins is you basically send out, the producers and the writers come together. Obviously Hasbro are the people behind My Little Pony, and they come to us and they describe characters that are going to be in a show. The show is going to be about such and such. And that's where the journey begins. And all the talent have to come in. We give them sides, which basically is like a page and a half of dialogue. And they study those. They read the character descriptions. And my job is when they come in, we organize for them to come in. They read for me and the client. And basically, I direct them as best I can through what the client tells me they want for a character. To get the job. And then we do short lists, like 4 or 5, maybe 6 actors get picked out of that batch. It goes back to the producers, the networks, and they choose, boy, that person really hit it on that, or we could do something a little different here. And basically then we have callbacks, so then we fine tune and find which person is going to get the job. And then hopefully we have a good cast assembled. That's when we do a pilot episode, which we get 8 hours to record, and the actors can hear their auditions, and basically they can hear, okay, this is what I'm going to do with this character. They can explain all that. My job is to make sure that all goes smoothly, that whole process, and that's where the journey begins. Ian's a veteran of auditioning and winning auditions.
Yes, some of them.
But no, so explain, go into how you get the gig.
Well,
I'm passing it off to you.
Thanks, Terry. An important key is bribing the director in any way you can. For Terry, it's gum.
Gum,
Yeah, likes gum. And we actually, Terry and I, this is sort of off topic, but we go way back. We've worked together for
20 years.
at least. At least. So he gives me every role I read for. No, it's not true. So that's actually, the reason I bring that up is because there's lots of actors looking for a very few roles, and you have to prepare really well. So just building on what Terry was talking about, you get this sheet of paper, and you look at it and you think, okay, who is this character? Hopefully, or ideally, there is a picture of the character, because that really informs what I think it should sound like. And you look at the various characteristics. Is he funny? Is he silly? Is he serious? Is he a villain? Does he have a limp? All those things can color how you do how you create the character. So you work on this really hard. You maybe do 2 or 3 different versions of it in your head when you're practicing at home, and then you go into a studio for the audition and you read your 1 or 2, and the director goes, no, those are not even close. And then you have to think on your feet and go, oh man, I better come up with something new.
But that's really important what you talk about. It's a lot of actors will only practice a role one way. And that's a huge mistake in auditioning, because what Ian said about thinking on your feet, a director will say, you know what, that's not even close. What else you got? And you have to go into your voice bag of tricks and pull something out that is completely different. And there's another thing too, quite often, when you get your sides, it'll be like a character, it'll be like, what would be an actor that they would put on the page, just a name, Sean Connery-esque. Well, 92% of the people come in and they give you Sean Connery. And then somebody comes in and does something completely different, but there's a twinge of it in there, and they get the role. All the other actors go, well, how come he got it? Because that person sounded different. So it's just just listening very closely to don't go with the first voice that you would have, you go with something that might be a little bit off, because everybody's going to be doing that.
And showing dynamics between the different ways you can
Absolutely.
interpret the role, right?
Yeah.
One of the things Ian mentioned that I found interesting is he said, does the character have a limp or anything like that? How much physicality actually plays into when you're doing the auditions? Or Kazumi's nodding over there.
A lot. It depends. Like I don't know. For me, like being physical with the character, it really helps me get into it. And like you should see some of us. We look really silly.
She moves a lot.
I do move a lot, like just bouncing up and down. And a lot of times they're telling me, okay, Kazumi, you have to be on mic, because I'll be doing things like this as I'm trying to record my lines.
Doing handstands.
So yeah, it's whatever
really,
works.
It's really great if you're wearing a starched cotton shirt too.
Claire's a great example, and she can go to this too. Claire's started as a kid actor, and the first time that I started seeing her is basically, and Andrea Lidman's one of these adult actors that has moved on, and I think Claire's going in the same direction. Claire had a really cute little voice, and I think her dad helped her a lot too, but Claire gets it. When you tell her something, and animation is a lot on pop culture references, she gets it. And that's a really important thing to be able to do. Her voice has changed in the last 2 years. And I don't know if you remember, I asked you a couple of sessions ago, because we had a role in this is Barbie, it's a different company. But anyway, she had a role that she did about 2 years ago, and it was a really cute little voice as a young girl. And her voice had changed, and she sent in another audition to say that she could still do it. She can do the older voices now and the younger voices. A lot of girls, growing up, can't make that transition, so that's a good sign.
Now, are there any differences between the VAs and the singing for auditioning? Like when
Specifically for voice acting versus singing.
A lot of times, like if that character's required to sing, they'll send you the sides and they'll send you lyrics and a blank track of the song that they would like you to sing in your audition. For My Little Pony, it was different. It was just a complete separate singing audition, but most of the time, if the character is required to sing, you will be required to sing after you perform the sides in the audition.
For Littlest Pet Shop, we had to sing California Girls by Katy Perry.
And we had to sit there all day and listen to it.
I felt badly for you guys. I had a good time singing it with my silly voices on. I think it's a much better song when you sing it with a silly voice.
Actually, it's interesting that you said that you have to sit there all day and listen to it. Is there any way that you deal with the repetitiveness of auditions or of doing takes throughout? Is there any way that you like get your mind off that and just
Legally? No, you know it's a process. You know that there's going to be a certain percentage that are really good. I mean, there's the people that we know that are, sort of the A-talent in Vancouver, where we record the show. And then there's up-and-comers, and there's sort of stock and trade B actors. But we always want to promote, my ideal show is having the main characters. If I could cast a show without having any client in there, I would handpick the actors, which are A actors, but then within that, I would put in one or two younger actors just to mix it up, to give them a chance, because they get to see it in a room. Sometimes, PBS is an example, they want to have young actors, which is great, but they want real voices. And sometimes they want a kid that's 8 years old. There's not a lot of great readers at 8 years old, and some parents want to stand in there and feed their kids the line, and you can't do that. Then there's other kids that are just absolutely amazing, and you just go, wow, where did this kid come from? And so, it's a really interesting process. You have to go through it, though. And there's a lot of people that are just off the mark, and you don't do the American Idol thing where, boy, that really sucked, get out of here. You have to be nice, and because, they want it as much as anybody else. I remember the first time I ever got an audition, or think about somebody coming in to read for My Little Pony or a Barbie movie or something like that. They've never done that, and that's a big deal to them. And so you have to give them, and you give them a fair shot. You hopefully, they're going to give you something that's going to surprise the heck out of you.
What about the VAs themselves? How do you guys deal with fatigue as you're recording?
Cookies.
Coffee.
Yeah. Tabitha brings cookies to every session. Yes. No
So
matter
basically,
what.
so that you crash.
So basically just caffeine, sugar, and just making everything crazy.
Well, and just
water too, but
and just pacing yourself too. Like if there's a lot of yelling, for example, like in a scene within the script, then you can choose to do it later in the session or do it right away, and or do it in pickups.
How many of you guys tasted blood in your throat after a session?
Never.
Not blood in your throat, but
Not
you
yet.
just feel
Not
your
yet.
throat is dead.
Not yet.
A long time ago I did. I'm a firm advocate of the 75 to 80% rule, especially when it comes to screaming.
really? I'm 110, I think.
Well, yeah, but you're a giver. I'm not.
I like to scream.
She is a natural screamer, but seriously, I've seen other actors who, to their credit, they want to do the best they can. So if it's screaming, they're just screaming, scream. You want some more? I'll scream. At the end of the day, no, your scream is different. I'm talking. There is a difference. I'm talking about male actors, in some of the action shows that we do, and they will end up at the end of a session, as Terry was alluding to, with literally their throat is bleeding.
They're talking like that.
10 minutes.
Yeah, and that the problem is you are now ruined for an afternoon session, or sometimes even the next day. You'll talk to these guys and they're like, why did you do that? It's good to be pleasing, but you have to hold back, or else you're kind of ruining your own livelihood. So I'm not advocating being lazy, but you do have to kind of know what your limits are, and it's the same thing with singers, right? If you're just pushing, you can really do some damage. So it's there's a balance in there.
Mm-hmm. That said, though, every now and then you do come across a script or a session that just, I find that every now and then there's no way around it. You just kind of have to I don't know how to go 70% on a certain thing. I can only do.
Oh, you have to take my workshop.
Yeah, thanks. Ian.
Then I don't, that's,
I'll audit it. I'll give you 70%.
sure.
Yeah.
They're smart screaming too, and I think that's what
Yeah.
Ian's alluding to. I mean, you'll have guys that want to please, and they will give you, say you're falling off a cliff, so I need 3 seconds of a scream, and they'll do it once, and then we'll be conferring in the room, and so the actor thinks that they didn't do a good enough job, so they just start screaming again. You go, don't scream
stop.
anymore! And then literally 10 minutes into the session, they're like, let's get some water. Well,
Yeah, I
go ahead.
think patience is a good word to use, because that actually happens where, you know, there's clients on the other side of the glass, and we're the animals on this side, and it is a bit like zookeeping, right?
Yeah,
You know?
I akin it to an aquarium because it's glass.
Yeah, that's right. And when the button's off on their side, it's very nice and quiet. It's like mayhem on our side until we hear them talk. But anyway, someone will scream, and then the button goes off, and you can see people behind the glass, and they're conferring, and they're actually hand puppets. And an actor is going, oh no, they didn't like my scream, and they're redoing their scream and doing it again. And my 75% rule, you can quote me on this, is
You're up to 75% now.
well, it is 70. I know. That's the true number.
It just keeps going up throughout the session.
No, it's 75%. And the reason I do that is, especially when it's a scream, you give a good one, but you know, very likely, like with most lines, you might have to do it again, or 2 more times, or you didn't get the right length, right? You're falling 20 feet. And you did 30 feet, or it's a 6-foot fall and it's really 10 feet, you know, and the directors on the other side of the glass, they have a storyboard or a better idea of what that is. So if you give everything in that first scream, like Terry said, then you're done. And
we'll
you kind
also-
of have to hold a little bit back so you can keep going.
We'll also say, and on your scream, as you're falling, you hit a tree.
Right.
You know.
And how many branches?
Yeah.
Yeah, because they're looking at it and they go, oh.
It makes a difference.
Yeah.
You want-
But that didn't hurt, right?
No,
That
that's,
didn't hurt.
that was like 50.
Now,
That was a total
now
50%
speaking
failure.
of screaming,
He got up.
I know Terry and Ian, you both worked on Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can blame us.
Now, is there a difference between Dragon Ball Z and then the stuff that you worked on?
Those are scream fest.
Like,
Those allude to what Ian was saying, is you cannot start off a session screaming because you're, like I say, you're tasting blood within the first 5 minutes.
like I always wondered when I was little, like it's always like 30 minutes of screaming. Like, how are they doing this? It's just like,
Good
"Ah!"
question.
On the next episode, ah! On the next episode, ah!
It's like, it goes back to that 75% thing, right?
Wait, here's a new episode.
But yeah, those. It depends on the show. Action shows have tons of screaming, and then there's also some characters, and I don't do these, but I mean these are characters that are huge, massive characters. I mean they get posted. They'll all, add effects onto it later. But there's guys talking in monster voices all day long, and that just kills them.
Well, and Dragon Ball was a unique. That was really one of the first Japanese reversion hits. You know, there was a few things floating around at that time, but Terry and I kind of specialized in, at that time, we were writing together and producing stuff. So that project came to us, and we had to take a Japanese, this really isn't about voice acting, but are you interested? We would take a kind of a fractured English translation of what the Japanese original script was. And we would sit down and read these things and look at each other and go, what?
You have to make it colloquial. You have to make it sound like what would you say in America, what would you say in the United States. You know, because a lot of Japanese animation has to do with different heavens and, you know, different levels of spirituality. And Americans, you can't say the word die to, you know, on television because it's bad for kids. So it was basically...
Death doesn't exist.
Yeah. There's two words you can never say in a cartoon is shut up and stupid.
Well, I noticed there from a difference between. No, I noticed between the difference between the sub and the dub. Like I watched both of them, and I noticed that different lines. Like one for dub, it's basically clean. For subbed, it's basically mostly curse words and gore.
Oh yeah, that was another. Yeah, that was huge.
Which I can understand why you guys can't hear that stuff.
There's interesting differences between the two countries, right? Like Japanese are just much more open to that stuff, but so much more closed off with other things.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Americans don't like death. They don't like any, it's true, they don't like, I mean, and probably in Canada too, is when somebody dies, you give it, no, you put the body in
I'm
the
not a
funeral
fan of
home.
death.
Yeah, it's death. Who here's a fan of death?
They're a bunch of Norwegian death metal heads or something. Oh, sorry, black metal. Excuse me, you knew I had that wrong. But just to close off the Dragon Ball thing, that was one of the reasons I retired from the show, was there was just too much flippin' screaming. And through a weird loophole of our union agreement at that time, I'll give you a very short version of the story, we were getting paid. There was different ways of getting paid at that time, and there was like sometimes you'd get paid by the hour, and then sometimes it was by the line, and it was always at the discretion of the producer. Who are you familiar with the musical Oliver? Yeah. You know, the producer's nickname was Fagin, so it was like he was walking around with coins, going, "God." So at his discretion, it would change all the time, and there was a point where those screams were defined as vocalizations that we wouldn't get paid for. So if we were getting paid by the line, it's like, you got 5 lines of screaming. Oh, I'm sorry, those are vocalizations, so you're not going to get paid for those. So my attitude was, then use the Japanese stuff. I'm not going to scream if I'm not getting paid. Not to be, it wasn't very much money either. So anyway, I just kind of went, sorry. But the show lived on.
I did.
It's huge.
Do you guys want to hear what a typical My Little Pony recording session sounds? Or we're not going to do it. I'll give you the lowdown, and we won't do any reading or anything like that. Obviously, we don't have any scripts. But I'll give you how it works. Is basically every one day a week at 2 in the afternoon, we all meet at the studio.
It's like a
And
lunch date.
everybody's given a script, so everybody knows what they're doing. And quite often we have extra actors in there, and everybody's oh so prepared coming in. And then we get them into the studio. Everybody goes in a big semicircle in a room where all the microphones are. So they all get assigned a microphone, and they all are happy, shiny faces, right? And then we...
Especially Kazumi.
Kazumi, yeah, and then she starts singing, we have to tape her and stuff. Anyway.
I'm closest to the glass.
Yeah, we put...
He needs to watch me all the time.
I'm behind a
Claire right in
pillar.
front.
Yeah.
Is Peter still there?
Yeah. Is Peter over there? Can I see Peter?
Oh, I can't see him because he's behind the thing.
Yeah, I can't even see him at all. All I see is a hat from the. Oh, there he is.
Then I go into the main control area with Jason and Jim. They're the 2 directors and also a recording engineer. And there's a girl that sits beside me, and she takes the track takes, or the good takes of dialogue that we do. And basically we start off by, I will say, okay, everybody ready to go?
No, I mean, yeah.
Blah, 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 blah.
Woo.
Okay, you guys ready?
Yeah.
Wait, I'm gonna get a coffee. So then we slate the show. What that means is we say that we're recording at such studio. This is My Little Pony episode 516. They give the date, and away I go. I say, okay, we're gonna do the first thing. Let's go 1 and forward. So then these guys, they just follow along, and it's like a radio play at that point. And so, yeah, they just follow off each other. And we like to work on ensembles, which is out east in Toronto and Montreal, a lot of times they do one voice at a time. Features like Disney and Pixar, I don't say, when they do the big features, they do one person at a time. But ensembles in sort of, Saturday morning animation works really well. Because if they're all, let's say there's a hurricane going on in the background, they're all yelling at the same level. And that's my job, to monitor all that, to make sure, yeah, we're getting the right action there. No, the pacing is really, really slow. And I'll often tell these guys, come on, you guys, gotta pick up the pace, let's get the energy going. And you guys can take it from there.
With the ensemble, the way that you record an ensemble, how does that work with Tara's lines?
That's a really good question. She's done separately. She's done in LA.
Someone reads, if let's say Tabitha is in a scene just talking to Twilight Sparkle and Rarity, then maybe Andrea Lupin, if she's just in the room, she'll just read while sitting down, read Tara's lines, so that it's easier for them to follow.
So she's like a stand-in, basically.
Yeah.
It is.
And she makes sure she doesn't do it very well. Because then Tara would get mad because Andrew would replace her.
So basically you guys get
Never.
Then Tara gets hers and then she sends it to you.
Yeah.
You bring up a really good, I'll tell you a real quick story there about Martha Speaks. We did Martha Speaks for PBS, and there's a woman that was doing sort of a celebrity, I won't say who, was doing it in LA. And so we had Tabitha St. Germain, you know who she is, yeah? She would do the voice of Martha, just dummy in the lines. And she did it, she really tried, well, she kind of tried it, she probably gave it the 75%, but she sounded really, really good. And then we go down to LA and record the other actress, and the actress is always going, oh, tell me what that other person did. And so he'd play it back, and she'd just repeat that. And so we had a little bit of a powwow after that, and Tabitha became Martha from doing that. And it was, it just shows you really got to give what you got to a show. But anyway, talk about what you guys do on the other side of the glass during your recording.
Well, all of our lines are numbered. So when Terry says one in the forward, whoever has line one says the first line.
They start.
That's right.
Yeah.
And then whoever has line two says line two. It basically just goes like that. I mean, I don't really know, there's not much else to it.
If you've ever seen or had the opportunity to see a script, the format is it's on a 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, and you will have a wide portion which is called the action. So you'll see the setting, exterior.
Apple farm.
Apple farm. Then a description of the action. So and so is moving here, and the sun is shining, and
Kicking trees.
that kind of stuff. And then the next part, this number thing that Peter was just mentioning, you'll see the character's name, Silver Shill, and a number, and then in a sort of a shorter or a smaller box, the dialogue for that character is there. So you've got action, dialogue, action, dialogue. So that's how it reads to us, so that we can see, oh, okay, what's going on, and you look at what's happening in the scene so that you can say it properly, and then you wait for your line.
We record every line twice, just for safety, so that in case, well, there was a mouth sound on that, or somebody banged into the mic, or so we record everything twice, but we also go back to make sure that we have really clean takes, so that when they edit it together, and that's Jason and Jim's job, they oversee that, you have a really, the show flows really well.
Really clean, tight dialogue editing. And
Absolutely,
pacing.
yeah. And animation too, pacing has gone up in the last 15 years. And so that's my job, part of my job, is to monitor how fast that goes. The other thing is, this is an interesting thing too, because we do it in Vancouver, we sort of all check ourselves on, we have to get rid of our Canadian accents.
Yeah.
What Canadian accent?
Sorry.
Does any pony know where
Don't you know?
A real easy
You're
example
West?
is, we both, Americans and Canadians, both spell mum, M-O-M. We say mum. Americans would say mom. Another word, tomorrow. We would say tomorrow. and Americans say tomorrow. And it's just those little
House.
Yeah.
And this is actually one of my favorites.
House, yeah.
B-E-E-N. How do you pronounce that? Yeah, well, we say bean. But there's regional versions of American bean.
And of Canadian.
There's Ben, Bit, Bin. I think there's another one too. But anyway, Terry's always went, hey, hang on.
Well, we had one the other day. It was the word cilantro. No, it's cilantro. You know, it's just little things like that. And there's other things that don't make any difference, like data or data. You can say either or. There's
Tiara.
yeah, those
Diamond
are
tiara.
yeah, and those are regional things. Envelope, envelope. It depends where you are. East Coast, West Coast are the same. West Coast tends to have more. West Coast represent. They basically they have more Spanish influenced sort of accents on the words, and East Coast is sort of messed up.
I'm offended.
No, I think it's good. I think it's funny. I love
Blitz is
listening.
very New York.
Yeah, New York and Boston. I mean, two different accents, and they're both great. You know.
All right, so we are going to start opening things up for audience questions and stuff too. We'll get the lovely Decibel to sort of stand down there. If you guys can start forming a line down that yellow line on that side if you have questions. First off though, because I'm going to wait for half the line to sit down after I ask this, but one of the most common questions we get is, how does one that's interested in voice acting break into voice acting?
I think you really.
Or is it better to go on the fly when you're doing a new character? Is it better to compare it to one that you've already done before, or like to do the character the way that you view them, or the way you think other people will view them?
Are you talking about original voices as opposed to established cartoon voices, like doing in a demo?
Yes.
Yeah, and a demo would be the best voices that you can do that would be original.
Yeah. Sometimes people have really interesting and like eclectic voices, and sometimes people just want to hear that because like gives a little bit of rasp in it, and it sets you apart from other people. So I think that's what people look for.
Yeah, and a lot of people, they can do it's really great imitations of famous cartoons, like whether it's Daffy Duck or Bugs Bunny. But then when they are taken off script suddenly, like they can't act, they can't, you know, like if they're on script, like an established episode of say like Looney Tunes, they can act it really well. But then once they're off script, they can't. It's like voice acting is about creating original voices and being able to create your own character.
Yeah. Think about how often you've heard Daffy Duck on My Little Pony. We're never asked to imitate. We're rarely asked to do any kind of imitation. Sometimes to reference when we're creating a character, but never to imitate.
So we're saying be a bonbon. Different voice every time.
My question is, well actually I sort of have a two-part. It's the newest character in My Little Pony, there's toys out everywhere, is the Princess Skyla. Are there going to be auditions for that character, and if so, when are they?
I have no idea.
All of it.
You're interested in auditioning for it?
Yes,
Well,
very
the
much
whole-
so.
The whole thing about it, there's a thing called open castings, and they do that for movies sometimes. And they go to different cities and they'll just open it up. That's really rare. You really, I mean, the beginning of the journey is putting together the demos we're talking about, and then giving that demo to an agent to submit you. Because if we said, oh, anybody can audition for this role, crud, we'd be sitting there for 3 months just, going through the first, 10%. It'd just be too big. So that if you can do that, where are you from?
Virginia Beach.
Wow, beautiful. But if you can get to, as you get older, to a city where they do that. But even now, I grew up on a farm in the middle of the prairies. And I never thought I'd be, working in this industry. I would have loved to. I loved cartoon voices when I was a kid. So I would do voices and be an idiot. And then, luckily, just through whatever, life's journey, I had a chance to audition for stuff. Because I was in the right place at the right time. And you have to be ready for that. So I would prepare yourself now to be the best little actress that you can. and then get to those centers, and then, you know, get an agent by putting together a really cool demo. Cool?
Thank you.
Hello, I am Christopher from Illinois. It's a very boring place. And I had 2 questions for the impeccable Ian. First question, how many times during your role as Goku in Dragon Ball Z have you yelled, say, Vegeta?
I don't know.
And the second question is, you probably get this a lot. Why did Namek take so long to blow up?
I don't write them. I don't know. That's a terrible answer, but
Good enough.
Great question. I don't know.
yeah, I know. Why do I feel like a dummy? That's a great
'Cause you
question.
are.
Can we move on? Maybe I should act like I know and say, "Oh, I can't tell you." Then I sound smarter than I am.
Hi. I wanted to know what kind of routines and stuff you guys do before you actually start acting.
You mean like
Warm-ups?
warm-ups?
Yeah, like warm-ups. What kind of warm-ups do you do?
Cookies. Water. Is that a warm-up? Water? Cold water? Warm water?
Not
Ice
too
cold water?
Reading through a bunch of lines in the script in character voice, that usually gets me warmed up both mentally and physically.
Yeah, I like to, if I have a heavy script, often with Littlest Pet Shop, I have a heavy script where I think the character talks reasonably quickly, and so I'll do some tongue twisters in the car and stuff like
Like?
that.
Pack of pickled peppers.
I want to make sure that my voice is warm by the time I arrive at the studio too. So I mean that largely is just making sure I've spoken out loud for at least a half an hour before I arrive, so that I don't.
Do you have anything
to show up like that?
Do you have anything that you do like as a
Like a particular one?
an actual exercise?
An actual exercise. I know some actual exercises. I think if I felt like I wasn't quite there, I would do some particular things. But
There's tons of those.
tons of stuff you can look at. What, and it's really whatever
Red
works for
leather,
you,
yellow
your
leather,
voice.
red leather, yellow leather, red leather,
Yeah.
yellow leather, red leather, yellow leather.
Oh yeah.
And
yeah.
don't drink milk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
the worst thing.
Like the guy behind us at breakfast this morning.
Oh, it was terrible.
It was horrible. Short story. He's behind me, and he starts coughing. And I
No, and he's like, what is he doing over there?
Claire's
Why is he
looking at me
acting?
going, you know, don't do it, Dad, because I'm about to
He's
turn
about
around
to-
and go, what in the world? And then,
And I'm like, I hear him ordering, can I have some skim milk and two
Yeah.
2%?
he wanted like 3 glasses of milk. No wonder you're horking up everything. So that's the reason you don't drink milk before a session. Oh, and Andrea Libman was like about 20 feet that way, and she heard the guy, and she saw my eyes open, and she was over there giggling. Because she picked up on it too. So anyway, the milk's not good for sessions.
Yeah.
No.
Unfortunately, we only got like 4 minutes left, so we're trying to shotgun through as many questions as we can.
All right, speed round.
Speed round.
Speed round, go.
Hi there, my name is Adam. I'm from Albuquerque, New Mexico, with the intention of moving to Vancouver to further my voice acting career. So living in New Mexico so far, I've only been able to submit auditions online for like smaller projects and things like that. But so I haven't had any like in the studio audition experience. So my question was for Terry, what are the most important aspects you look for in a professional studio audition?
Just diversity. It's within the 2-3 minutes that you do it is what's your range. I mean, you know, there's different actors that do different things usually. There's comedic actors that are really good at that. The A-list can do a whole range of things. What I'm looking for is diversity in character. You give me 10 seconds of, you know, a straight read. You give me, you know, 10 seconds of, you know, the nuttiest character you can think of. It's all that range is kind of shotgunning that to give me a collage of your voice. And it's got to be diverse. Diverse as you can, I'm being redundant. It's just being diverse as you can. A lot of people think they have to be theatrical and read and be very clear. Nah, you gotta be good. You really have to lift that character off the page. and perk my ears. I mean, you know, when you hear something interesting, you turn your head. Does that help at all? Sorry, I don't know. Good luck.
Hi, I'm Sophie, and I'm from Princeton, New Jersey. And my question is about getting an agent, because it's complicated in the way that you need to be known, you need to have an agent, and to get an agent, you need to be known. So there's really no clear way that I know of to sort of like...
Just got to write a killer cover letter and be really persistent.
Yeah, if you get one rejection, wait until you get 50.
Yep.
Then you push it really.
Keep at it.
Don't be hurt by rejection.
Also know the agent that you want too. Research agents ahead of time and know them so that when you write your cover letter, you can say, listen, you're the one, you. I've chosen you.
Yeah.
So it's not just this blanket, hey, I want to be a voice actor and you're an agent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Please help.
Yeah, make sure you don't photocopy it crooked.
Be
You're
confident.
really special.
Yeah,
So
be
are you.
Yeah, and once you get the audition, be prepared when you go in there because they want you to be good. They want you to knock their socks off.
Yeah, they
right?
want the best.
Yeah, so if you go in there and once you get a yes and you're prepared and you're ready to bring it, for sure.
Thank you.
No problem.
Good luck.
All right, we got 1 minute left, so last question.
Okay, so what's your favorite line you've ever said while voice acting?
Yep.
I love that one because hardly anyone gets to hear that one.
I know, right? It's
My
such a
favorite.
rare thing.
Kazumi?
Just for My Little Pony in general?
Anything.
Anything.
From any animation.
How about you?
Yeah, how about you guys go first?
Skip me too.
I don't know.
I got 2 from 2 different shows. Johnny Test. I like 1-word lines. And the other one is, oh, it's 2 words. Oh, the boy! Dinosaur train.
Claire?
Well, I like screaming, so probably my favorite line would have to be, "Oh, come on!"
You think you can read that, Kazumi?
Well, I didn't get to say it on the show, but it's like,
Oh, darling, you're so fabulous.
not as cool as the other one.
All right, well, thank you guys so much for coming on this panel today. It's been an absolute pleasure to talk with you all. Once again, we have Karen Klassen, voice director of My Little Pony. We have Ian Corlett from Dragon Ball Z, and many other things. So much stuff. We have Claire Corlett, we have Kazumi Evans, and Peter New.
Thank you very much.
Bye, everybody.
Oh my gosh.